be on our feet if we acknowledge who we are, the beautiful women of Unisa, our visitors who are here, and we are going to sing. And I will also request somebody who has a beautiful voice, who doesn't go for idols to get a wooden mic, but who go for idols to win, to also assist me. Ikamala makosigasi malibongwe, ikamala makosigasi malibongwe, 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 ikamala makosikasi malibongwe, ikamala makosikasi malibongwe, 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 malibongwe. Greetings, ladies. Can you tell somebody seated next to you, tell her how beautiful she is? You are beautiful. You are beautiful. Yes. I see some are shy to tell men that they are handsome. Thank you, thank you. Now, there's a song that I love which talks about beauty. For those who don't know Setswana, it says, Mosadi omupila so onomeleka. This beautiful woman, where did you hide her all along? Because I see the beauty today. Mosadi omupila so onomeleka. Onomeleka. Mosadi omupila so onomeleka. Onomeleka. Our womanhood, we celebrate our beauty. And if somebody, last year I said this and I'm going to repeat it. If somebody told you how ugly you are, he couldn't stand up to your standard. Because your standard is so high, your brains are so high, your IQ, therefore he wanted to pull you down and say you are ugly, you are fat, you are what. But now we celebrate God with our beauty, with whatever that God has given us. And the who you are, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who says what. Just know that you are beautiful and you are fearfully and wonderfully made. My name is Moyahabo. I normally explain the meaning of my name, Moyahabo, meaning the person who's going to her home. Therefore, Unisa, UWF is my home for today. And the other name that I don't know its meaning from the colonial regime is Diana. And my surname is Makhanya, meaning Makhanya, the inner part of the mouth. Therefore, when I speak, don't be surprised, because my surname is Makhanya. Therefore, she will speak, she will sing. Thank you so much. I just want to welcome the principal, who's the father of the house. And when the head of the house is here, it means UWF is doing the right thing. Shall we just applaud our father? Our father, yes. Children who lack the identity of a father, there is something that doesn't go right in their lives. They lack that love from the father figure. And when it's a girl child who lacks the father figure, oh, hey, she will be looking around, searching for that male component in her life. Therefore, we are so blessed to have the father amongst us as UWF, and we just want to say, principal, always when UWF calls you, you always come. We respect you and we honor you for that. Let me welcome all the regional officers that are here, our UWF members, all the women who are here. Today we see the male figures. Hala, Allah, the boy child, hala, Allah. Yes, we cannot gather as women and we leave the boy child behind or the men behind, because they are the ones who must hear what we are saying. They must hear how we are crying, and then there will be transformation. No matter how many we can be, but if the boy child and the men are not hearing what we are saying, then whatever that we are doing is vanity of vanities. Kilifela, lamafela. So we are happy to have the males amongst us. Let me also acknowledge the visitors who are here, who have accompanied our keynote speaker. Can they be on their feet so that we just welcome them with the Unisa warm hand of applause? Thank you so much. And all the CODs, the deans who are here, and everybody who's here. I said last year, and I'm saying it again, that every woman has a title. Every woman has a title. Why are you not happy that you have a title? You are called sister. You are called aunt, rakhadi. When you are not there, lobola negotiations won't go on. They say auntie must be here. So you are so important. You are called mamuholo. You are called mani. You have a title. And you are a mother. You are a woman. You have a title. Yes, when we are in our job situation, they call us doctors and professors. But the most important title that one can have is to be a woman, a mother, and a sister, an aunt. And we are very happy to have all the women here. And everyone has a title today, and that title is important. I just want to say, as we are starting, I want us to have a moment of silence. Let's be on our feet. We are going to remember all the ladies who were abused and who were slain by people who did not understand that a woman needs to be treated gently. We remember Karabo Mukwena. Recently, we had Kensani Maseko. These are some of the things that make us to cry as women. We are going to bow in a moment of silence and cry unto God and say, Father, we just want you to see our tears as women. We are crying for our children. We are crying for the boy children who do not understand what womanhood is. O se boloke morena, se boloke, o se boloke morena, se boloke, se chaba sa, Jesu, se chaba. South Africa, Maku Benjalo, Maku Benjalo, Kuze Kube Gumna Pakate, Kuze Kube Gumna Pakate. We may be seated. I'm going to request Dr. Sheila Kumalo, the chairperson of Unisa Women's Forum, to deliver the welcome address.
Halala bafazi, halala. Malibongwe. Igama lamakhosikazi. Jovicho, boy child, you are here. Jovicho. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking your time being here in this commemoration, mix of many things, particularly Feroza Adams' Memorial Lecture and celebrating the achievement of us as women at Unisa. Before I even go there, let me first welcome our esteemed guests, especially because our MC has done the work. Now, my speech of welcome, I'm shoving it under the computer already. I'll just quickly run over. Our father, Professor Makhanya, the Vice Principal. The Vice Principal, and thank you for making time. I know that he should have been elsewhere, engaged in the MENCOM, but then he's here. We truly appreciate that. As Prof. Makhanya has indicated, when the father is here, the children are happy. That's why you see us happy like this morning. We appreciate, thank you so much. Then I'll quickly want to acknowledge the presence of members from other organizations like SAWID. If they are not yet here yet, we are expecting them. They have confirmed that they are coming. SAWID, if you are here, okay, they are on their way. We also would like to acknowledge the presence of the representative from the Progressive Women Forum, led by, now that delegation will be led by a former Minister of Higher Education, Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize. They are on their way, okay? And then we also would like, I know that Mem is here already, our council member, Mrs. Nosisi Mkoka. Now we're having seriously important people here. We just somehow need to behave, particularly because council, in fact, we need to cry. If we need to cry, we need to spell out our challenges if needs be. Right. And all those I have not, the structures that I have not acknowledged. The organizations are not yet here, okay, but then I would like to also acknowledge the presence of our keynote speaker. Okay, our keynote speaker, Refilwe, we're going to hear what she says about our important theme for Abasadi in August month. And I would also like to acknowledge Professor Meyiwa, the Vice Principal, who is here. I saw her walking. There she is. And thank you so much and welcome. Let us all celebrate our achievements. And we nominated people got the award, so we are going to see that later, how it panned out. We truly appreciate that. Let me quickly go through why we are here. Feroza Adam. Right, I'm just going to run through who Feroza Adam is, basically. We all know, I'm not sure if we need to, because there are so many Feroza Adams that we have. Maybe we need to look into the next one, but then this particular individual has a purpose that we commemorate her life every August. As I read here, you will see why, and it is of that importance that we do that. She was born in this month, Women Month, 16 August, and many of us probably were born in 1961, and passed away, guess what, on the 9th of August. So this is how important it is. She was an activist, a driver, a pusher, an achiever of note. So this is why we feel as UWF that we need to commemorate such women who actually push, who engage, who cares for community, who are physically and practically involved in solving social ills in the communities, so that we raise our boy children, because it happens that at the end, at a later stage, these are the very same people that are involved in gender-based violence that we are all talking about. So Feroza Adam was that. She worked as a campaign and also as a public secretary for ANC Women's League. She has been involved in Women's League or women issues a long time ago. And she was also a diplomat. Because when you lead, you should also be a diplomat, because there are many challenges here, the conflicts. Once you are involved in relationships, particularly when in an organization, or when you take the communities or society forward, you are bound to actually knock heads. With the first democratic election of a new ANC-led government in 1994, Adams moved to Cape Town to serve as a member of parliament. She was also a parliamentarian, and she did very well there, organized and spoke with conviction in public, meant that she was a force to be reckoned with. That was the indication and qualities and character that she actually possessed. Unfortunately, she died tragically in a car accident on a National Women's Day. This is why we need to commemorate, to remember all the good, because she really set the standard. And this is why, like Mama Albertina Sisulu, we need to commemorate. And it's just ironic that most of the time it is women who push and uplift men and forget about us. Mama Albertina Sisulu also pushed for the goodness of the community and empowering young women to stand for their rights. And as for Feroza Adam, in her honor, the Feroza Adam Memorial Lecture was initiated by the Institute for Gender Studies in 1994. It is now collaboratively organized annually by the Institute for Gender Studies and the Unisa Women's Forum. In a statement, Unisa said of Adams, "It is always with enormous gratitude and humility that Unisa remembers this remarkable woman who left an indelible mark on every person whose life she touched. Her willingness to speak her mind, to honor her beliefs and live her values made her a very powerful role model for women across all sectors of South African society. To this end, we again honor her life and contributions. I would like to welcome you all in that note. Let the celebration and commemoration begin.
Okay, also say la pela mandla. Also say la pela mandla. Lisele ela makosi kasi. Also say la pela mandla. Thank you, Dr. Khumalo, for welcoming us. Now we know that we are free, and we just want to thank you for acknowledging also Mama Sisulu. Normally the centenary, we take it to only Utata, but we forget about one of us. Mama Sisulu is also a year where we must remember that it is her centenary also. Thank you so much for welcoming us. We are now at home. I'm now going to prepare ourselves for this phenomenal woman who will be coming up front to deliver a keynote address. Ms. Refilwe Machete, a founder and president of the African Women's Movement, a chartered accountant, a former senior lecturer of taxation at the University of South Africa, where we are. I hope she was also part of Women's Forum. A finalist for 2018 CICA's Top 35. Can we just applaud her for that? A chairperson of the Health and Welfare Sector Education and Training Authority. Mama Refilwe Machete, can you be on your feet? And we will also acknowledge her presence here by standing up as she's coming to the podium. Let's give her a warm round of applause because we are going to hear from the woman. Thank you. Over to you.
Thanks, Program Director, for that warm welcome. And to the Principal and Vice Chancellor of Unisa, Babu Makhanya. To the Chairperson of Unisa's Women's Forum, Dr. Khumalo. To all the deserving award nominees. And to the distinguished audience. Greetings, all protocol observed. Now, a program director mentioned quite a few women organizations that are here. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of all those women, especially in light of me being a founder, as well as the president of one of those organizations, and knowing very well how hard it is on a day-to-day to run an organization such as Unisa's Women's Forum. Congratulations to all the women who have participated in such initiatives to ensure that the emancipation of women is kept alive. Please, if we can just give a round of applause to all those women. I must mention, though, as a former employee of Unisa, it is quite heartwarming for me to be back, especially on such a platform. And I'd like to say, Babu Makhanya Nkumbile Kaya. And I take the title that Prof Makhanya mentioned. I am a daughter of Unisa. I must say, though, I'm still not used to saying I'm a former employee, so yeah. As I was approaching the gate, my hand instinctively moved towards my armrest because every time I drove through, I would just instinctively go and grab my stuff card. And I just remembered just in time that the event is Gohorong and that I don't have to go inside and search for parking. So that was quite pleasant. The timing for me to be here during Women's Month, on this platform in particular, could not be more appropriate. My sincere gratitude again goes to the Unisa Women's Forum for entrusting me to deliver the 2018 Feroza Adam Memorial Lecture on the topic, Creating African Women Leaders. I must confess, apart from my time at Unisa, the name Feroza Adam had not really crossed my radar. I was pleasantly surprised to learn that she, like I, is from the south of Johannesburg, in Lenasia in particular, and I'm from Go-Evaton. Also, I was really pleasantly surprised to find that she also studied at Wits University, and that we share a common passion for the empowerment of women. It is quite ironic, as the chairperson has pointed out, that her untimely death in a car accident was on Women's Day, on the 9th of August in 1994, just after being elected in Parliament and a few days before her 33rd birthday. Now that is where our commonalities start to diverge. On my 33rd birthday, the African Women's Movement had its official launch, which saw over 300 women in attendance. As the former president, as the founder and president of the organization, it becomes important for me to share the origins of the organization in light of the topic at hand. It all started with the simple question: why is it when men meet, they talk about everything, including business, whereas with women, we talk about everything else and avoid talking about business, for the most part? I also understand that I'm generalizing in this statement, but if this was not the case, wouldn't it be true that there will be more representation of women in leadership roles of authority? As I have mentioned, the issue of my question is debatable, or perhaps I haven't mentioned. It is quite debatable. My guess would be the root of most such reasons would stem from patriarchy. After all, we do live in Africa, where our thinking tends to be influenced by our cultural backgrounds, which is something that we continuously strive as women to dismantle. My point is that the said question motivated me to make a few calls to my peers to ascertain the validity of a platform that is deliberate about changing the status quo amongst women. In 2016, I started a WhatsApp group in this light, and within a month, the group had over 200 people in it. These young ladies, mostly between 25 and 40, decided it's an opportune time for us to just meet and see where this could take us. So the first meeting was held on 20 September 2016 by an abandoned mine shaft in Soweto, a stone throw from Soccer City. The attendees each brought treats from home, so it wasn't really a catered event. Everybody just contributed what they could. It was indeed a collective effort. It was a lovely meet and greet. Everyone was in good spirits, and at the end of the day, we are all first faced with the question, what next? The establishment of a non-profit company became inevitable, and there was an expectation from the ladies that I would be the one to keep the momentum going. I, of course, being somewhat naive about what it entails to actually start something and get it going, I obliged. Little did I know, at the time, my life was about to take a substantial detour, and I grew gray hairs within the next few months. Right from the start, it was clear that the ladies in the group were no ordinary young women. Among these were doctors, we had lawyers, actuaries, academics, chartered accountants, and many, many more professions. It was clear from the conversations that these were the emerging women leaders. These were the emerging African women leaders. As the organization evolved, it became our vision to prepare these emerging women leaders to occupy leadership roles of authority in a deliberate manner. Considering the topic today, we continuously strive to actively contribute towards the creation of African women leaders in the best way we know how, given the resources that we have. When preparing for this lecture, I happened to come across the history of the cast iron three-legged pot that I have seen from my childhood being used to prepare feasts at traditional gatherings. I was surprised to learn that these pots arrived in Africa in the 17th century and that they replaced the clay pots that we used to use. You may wonder what a cast iron three-legged pot has to do with the creation of women leaders. Well, I wish to share with you today my thoughts of what I perceive to be the 3 key ingredients pertinent in creating women leaders in Africa. These have been, of course, informed by my experience and that of others. Through reading, observation, and listening to a lot of women, thousands that have walked through the doors of AWM and many other women organizations we partner with. These ingredients are education, self-development, as well as community development. In the African culture, the food makes the event. We all know that the host can get everything wrong. However, you cannot afford to get the food wrong. Otherwise, you will be the discussion of town for the next while to come. And so, I liken these ingredients to mixing in the three-legged pot. All these ingredients where the community comes together. Typically, the men lend a hand in slaughtering the animal that's going to be eaten, while the women peel the vegetables and tend to the pots. Likewise, the deliberate creation of effective African women leaders requires the collective effort of the community as a whole. I believe that the success where gender equality is concerned in Africa depends on the right mix of education, self-development, and community development. Allow me to elaborate. The first ingredient, education. Our former president and icon of modern history, Utata Nelson Mandela, once said, "Young people must take it upon themselves to ensure that they receive the highest education possible so that they can represent us well in the future as future leaders." Now, this is interesting because when the program director was pointing out that the chairperson mentioned a quote from Mama Albertina Sisulu, I must say I was quite guilty of that sin, where when I was researching, I just tended to gravitate towards Utata Mandela's quotes instead of remembering Umam Albertina Sisulu, which says a lot about the environment within, as women, we function in, that a lot of the times we are conscientized to put men ahead of our own interests. I recognize that where formal education is concerned, I really am preaching to the converted. After all, we are in academia. There is substantial research, domestically as well as internationally, that shows the positive effects of formal education. And I will not bore the distinguished guests into getting in such statistics. The other day, at one of the AWM events, where we had 55 attendees of the caliber I mentioned earlier, we put the famous picture of the Women's March in 1956 on the screen. And for a prize, we asked the ladies, can you name all 4 of the women on the picture? Can anybody guess how many people got it right? Exactly 0. As most of you may be aware, this was a picture with Rahima Musa, Lillian Goy, Sophie Williams de Brain, as well as Helen Joseph. And none of our young, esteemed, and educated women knew all those names off the bat. In a separate event, we further asked the ladies whether they knew the democratic wards they reside in and name their councillors. Can anybody guess how many people knew? Exactly 0. We also asked the ladies if they knew of the Department of Women. I'm happy to report that most of them did. However, most did not know who the minister within the ministry is. And this was at the time when Her Honorable Minister Susan Shabangu was still the minister before Minister Batabile Dlamini took over. So as a movement, we decided to embark on a project to educate our members about the history of women, domestically as well as internationally. The objective was quite simple. In order for us, as a gender, to know where we're going, we really need to understand where we're coming from. It is in this context where, as young women, we can truly understand as well as appreciate our generational role in achieving gender equality. And I heard a little bit when the chairperson said most of us were born around 1961. So for those who fall within that gap, we really plead to you as young women, show us the way, teach us how. Sometimes when we do the things we do, it's not because we just want to be silly. It's because we just lack the appropriate guidance. According to the 2017 World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap Index, globally, Iceland is at #1 and is leading the pack in narrowing the gender gap. As a young African woman, it was quite encouraging to see that Rwanda, representing the continent, at #4. And just out of interest's sake, South Africa ranks at #19 on this index. However, I really would be doing the audience a disservice if I did not put these statistics in context. On 24 October 1975, Icelandic women went on a strike to protest wage discrepancy and unfair employment practices. Now, at the time, women who did the same job as men earned less than 60% that which men earned. So, what did they do? 90% of Icelandic women population, or the female population, participated in the strike. And almost 43 years later, they continue to enjoy the benefits of these efforts and are consistent in making sure that the status quo remains. Hence why they're still at #1 today. Now, coming closer to home, because I really believe as Africans, we need to start embracing our own solutions instead of looking outside the continent to find solutions. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the success story of Rwanda and how they got to #4. When reading about the country's success story and of the achievements post the genocide in 1994, where we saw over 1 million people die in a matter of 100 days, as a movement, we had to see for ourselves, how did they emerge from this tragedy to become the leading country in Africa where gender equality is concerned? Today, Rwanda has a stable and remarkable corrupt-free government where women hold key leadership roles and where policies are cited as model for gender inclusiveness. Furthermore, over the last decade, the country has averaged a GDP growth rate of nearly 8%. Now, out of interest, South Africa's GDP averaged a little over 2% in the same time. In an effort to educate ourselves in this miracle, the Deputy President of AWM, Pindile Ndelale, and I ventured to Kigali in November 2017 to experience Rwanda for ourselves. We landed in Kigali just after midnight, and we were shocked to see women at the time, ordinary women, walking the streets. Ordinary women like you and me. And when the sun came out, what we saw was just, for me, it was a miracle. The country was really squeaky clean, as we read in publications. Pindile and I were fortunate enough to visit the Kigali Genocide Memorial, as well as the parliament, which comprises of 60% of women. We soon learned that Rwanda's National Women's Council, whose highest structure forms part of the General Assembly, where such representatives are not representing the interests of political parties, but solely those of women. This structure is entrusted with keeping women issues alive in Parliament, ensuring that the issue around, for example, gender-based budgeting, as well as gender-based violence, are adequately and effectively dealt with at a policy level. This was sobering for us in light of our own parliament that comprises of the National Assembly as well as the National Council of Provinces. Often, we see women go to these structures with really good intentions, but somewhere along the lines, the interest of the political parties that they serve tend to override the interest of women as a collective. Subsequent to our visit in Kigali, we launched the AWM Women's Learning Expedition, which we hosted from the 24th to the 26th of May in 2018. We saw 26 women from South Africa venture to another African country with the sole purpose of learning. To say to the women of Rwanda, teach us how. How did you do it? And how did you do it within such a short period of time, considering that the genocide was only in 1994? We believe this approach fosters a more united, self-reliant Africa. I must give credit to the active involvement of the Rwanda High Commissioner to South Africa, His Excellency Vincent Karega, as well as our very own High Commissioner in Rwanda, His Excellency Nkosinati Twala, who were instrumental in us having a successful event. The The success of this initiative has propelled us to continue with the project. However, there is plenty of room for improvement. And in light of there being a number of academics in the room, the one thing that really needs improvement is the content of the initiative. Yes, it was quite challenging taking 24 women from South Africa to another country, and that tended to be our focus, the logistics. But one thing we see value is partnering with academics to strengthen the research component of the entire exercise, to be able to move from one country to another within the continent, to understand how can we borrow each other's best practice. Now, the second ingredient, self-development. I'd like to share one of my favorite quotes by an ancient Chinese philosopher and writer, Lao Tzu, which reads, "Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power." In creating African women leaders, it becomes that much more important for us to realize the power of understanding those whom we serve. But most importantly, understanding ourselves. As a leader, knowing your strengths enable you to hone them, and knowing your weaknesses enables you to supplement them. The funny thing about a biography that I had written actually for this event, it was subsequently nicely summarized. However, quite recently, when I was nominated for the top 35 under 35 competition, I was tasked with the updating my CV as well as my profile. However, I knew myself enough to know that I would never do it any justice. And I enthralled the services of a close friend who is rather artistic when it comes to words, who assisted me with the exercise. And that's one of the examples, small examples that demonstrate the power of knowing your strengths as well as your weaknesses. Now, the last ingredient, community development. The period of the Women's Learning Expedition, within the third day, we participated in an event, a community work day that is held in Rwanda every last Saturday of the month, and it's called Umuganda. It is in this period that the community gets together. It's a legislated process, and the community gets together to clean the country. Hence, what explains why the country is so clean. But the interesting part about the entire process is that the last hour of the initiative is dedicated to the community just talking about the issues within the community itself. Where are the potholes? Who is unemployed? And how can we be engaged? So in the last day of the expedition, we went to a community just a little outside of Kigali, and it's called Gosabo Rusororo. And there we saw the community building a house for one of the community members without any expectation of compensation. And these people just showed up, and they were passing each other stones. There were bricklayers there, and by the time we left, the house was substantially at a position that is ready for it to be roofed. So those are the kind of things that when moving around and getting ourselves exposed, we can learn even within our continent. Now, as I begin to conclude, I think of all the women that contributed in me being on this podium today. I think of Dr. Mariope. I think of Dr. Kumalo, and I think of many others such as Zandi, who was kind enough to actually drive me to the event. And so often we tend to hear women saying, why is it we tend to pull each other down? And I say, actually, do we really pull each other down, or we entertain the conversation of us pulling each other down? Because in my time and my experience in corporate, in business, everywhere I've been, there's always been that one woman, at minimum, who's been kind enough and open enough to say, Refilwe, I've opened the door, just walk through. Then it brings about the question, are we kind enough to each other? Are we really kind enough to each other? Because as women, we all have our own challenges. And if somebody can't help you at that particular time, wouldn't it better for all of us to just think, perhaps busy, perhaps right now she can't, but if she could, she would. Because at the end of the day, we are all in the same boat and have the same challenges. Now, going back to Feroza Adams, this is a young woman in the 80s who was a Muslim. However, she was brave enough to engage in community work for the betterment of women as a whole in a manner that she did, to a point where she even went outside of the country to educate herself in international relations and diplomacy. And those are the many examples within our society that we can look for that have actively used the ingredients that I have mentioned in order to advance our community and alleviate gender equality. Therefore, Bafas, it's all up to us at the end of the day. There is so much, only so much, men can do. When we look at the march that happened in 1956, that is really testament that as South African women, we can. History has proven that we can. The only thing is that I sincerely believe that in order to create an African woman leader, we need to be sympathetic with each other and cooperate and respect each other. Thank you.
Let's applaud Merefilwe. Thank you so much, Mama. I'm lacking the African way of applauding another woman. That's how we do it in Africa. Thank you, Refilwe, for reminding us who we are and saying that our challenges, we need to resolve them the African way. We have solutions to do whatever that we do. And then another thing that I liked, mastering yourself is true power. Knowing who you are. And the three-legged pot, if one leg is broken, you can't cook. And the three legs, significance, self-worth, security. And as a woman, if the three legs are intact, you know who you are. I'm important, I have self-worth, and I have a sense of security. I don't need a man to feel secured. And if you are secured, then you won't run around, singing kabatla batla hohle hohle katikologa hohle hohle. No, you know who you are. Yes. Why do you have to search around looking for a sense of security? Self-knowledge is self-power. Then you are empowered as a woman. And the African way, if I can elaborate further, just to add on what Mama Refilwe has said. A woman, your parents must sit down and negotiate. Don't run around searching, moving in. Before parents sit down and talk about you as a woman and give you the key. Why do you move in? Why? Now they're angry now. Yo, sorry. I was doing it the African way. And if we go back to our roots, we will have the 3 legs. Significant, I'm important. Ooh, I don't need you for security. And I have self-worth. I don't need an approval of a man. No. Now why do you move in? Are your parents aware where you have moved in? Go home. Thank you. Let's give Refilwe an applause. Thank you. Refilwe said, those who were born in the 60s, I belong to that category. No, I'm mentoring. I'm mentoring. Thank you. And we'll continue to mentor in the corridors. I will ask the young ones in the corridor, have you moved in or out? Thank you. Let's continue, colleagues. Now the moment of truth has arrived. And Dr. Sheila Kumalo and Dr. Silita Bani, our chairperson and secretary of Unisa Women's Forum, they will come to the podium to proceed with the Unisa Woman of the Year Awards. I want to teach you this song. It is in Setswana. It says, in English, it says, these women will dance with them, In Sesotho, basa, basa diba, yoro jiga jiga libona. Basadiba. Anyone with a powerful voice than mine? Mine is tenor. Aus. Basadiba, basa. 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 Yoro chiga chiga libona. Basadiba. Yoro chiga chiga libona. Basadiba. Basa. Wood.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Okay, what we are going to do here, let me just explain the process. We encourage women to nominate women, more women. Please take the notices seriously when we reach out to you to say, nominate women, who have actually taken time to do good work in the communities or even at Unisa, please respond. Heed the call. Now, what happens here, we already have developed, according to the Constitution, UWF Constitution, we have a Constitution, by the way, we have the categories. Now, I'm going to quickly read through the categories, but before I do that, the process, we first send out the notice, income, UWF membership, we have close to 600 members, to request that please nominate. In the nomination form, there are categories clearly defined. You know your colleague, you know your friend, you know your sister within Unisa. It doesn't matter whether it's an academic, professional, or in the services. We recognize, this is why we are gathered here this afternoon. All the categories are in the nomination form. Once you receive that nomination form, it has clear instructions what to do and where to return that. As all the years, we have again this year, or this time around, extended, I think it was about 3 times, because we didn't get enough. Yes, we got nominations, but then we just felt there are too many women at Unisa. I walk from Gas van Vieren to Theo van Wyk. I see good working women, diligent women. But then we just felt that let us extend. We extended about 3 times. When we have seen that we have saturated the nominations, EXCO sits. That's what we did. We sit. All the nominees or all the nominations are beamed in the screen. The EXCO members sit there. Then that's how we discuss, we compare who deserves which award and so on. Of course, we are guided by the nominators who indicate that we feel that this person has done so much in this category. Once we've done that, we collate all the nominees, and this is the list, and then we send for certificate printing. So this is what the awardees are going to get this afternoon, receive this afternoon. And we already congratulate them, but let me just put the horse before the cart. Now, we have, for those who have no idea what the categories look like, I'm just going to read the summary. We have a category for caring for other unisans. The winner must have undertaken a project, activity, or task that has materially shown care to other unisans. Unisans is me and you. Either in a department or division, or outside that. This may take the form of emotional, physical, not the pull-down syndrome. Pull-it-down syndrome. And then the caring of other unisans goes on to support in terms of physical, educational, to other people. Just be kind. Because remember, Basadi, we spend about 6 hours every day. Can't we just be kind? At Unisa, we spend less at our homes with our families. But then here, can we just create our families here? Be kind, emotionally, physically, and educationally. Let us support each other. Now, that is the category. We don't know yet who has actually taken that category. Another category is community service. The winner must have successfully completed a project. There's so many projects. UWF also has projects. I don't know if they even count. But then, again, what is very important, EXCO or UWF EXCO members are not part of this. We are not winners. We are not even allowed to nominate each other. It is purely for women UWF members. That's credibility. Can we just take, credibility where it belongs? Right. The winner for community service must have successfully completed a project, task, or activities to benefit the community around her. This may take the form of benefiting women or the community at large. The nomination must include information about the nature, relevance, and the impact of the community service project. And then we have another category, which is transformative leadership. Now that category, the winner must have a vision to inspire other women. She must have completed projects, started and completed projects that have enhanced conditions for women and or that have enhanced life for the general population outside Unisa. And she must have successfully mentored younger colleagues. I think Prof. Makhanya can take that already because she has just mentored us all. You go back home, move out. Right. Then we have another category, significant achievement. Now that category refers to an area of achievement such as research, academic or administrative, as well as professional support. Now, this individual should strive for the betterment of other people by at least providing resources, make resources available to support candidates, and completed activities or projects that must be also come with this category, and to set precedents. And the candidate should have a scope of influence within university, local, regional, and even external, nationally. Then we have another category, courage in adversity. The winner must have demonstrated significant courage, possibly in the face of personal or institutional adversity, in order to achieve her goals. The nomination must provide an account of the obstacles which the candidate had to overcome in order to reach her success. Then we have the category called enhancing others' health and wellness, or health and well-being, apologies. The winner must have successfully have done something to assist others in enhancing their health and well-being. For example, she may have distributed resources or shared information to others in order to enhance their health and or well-being. It would be an advantage if the candidate's successful activities can be supported. We already had those, the evidence to say if a person says for this category, is nominated for this category, then we required evidence, and we have indeed received evidence going with the nominations. And now here is another challenge that we came across. Those who did not provide evidence, we unfortunately had to not to consider them. And then there is this main award for this afternoon, the Feroza Adam Award. It is advocacy and promotion of women's rights, as we have heard the history of Feroza Adam. The winner is someone who has tirelessly advocated and engaged in activism for the rights and conditions of women in the Unisa community and beyond. She has kept women's interests in the forefront of her vision for the past several years and has completed several successful projects, meaningful projects, which have advanced gender equality. So that is the main award for this afternoon. So what is going to happen now, we are going to request our Vice Chancellor, Prof. Makhanya, to come forward, and our Council member, Ms. Nosisi Mkoka, because now we are going to announce our winners, or we are all winners. It's just that these people worked beyond. So when your name is called, You are going to come forward to receive your award. Then you shake hands. Shake hands with Vice Chancellor and our council member. So I'm gonna just hand the certificates. Okay. I'm going to speak. I'm going to call and then you just hand me the certificate. Okay. Okay. Good. Okay. Oh, do you want me to? No, you just hand over. Okay. In this category, the first category, in no order of preference, we have caring for other unisons, and the awardee is Miss Pinkin Lovo. Can you come over? Congratulations. Pinkin Lovo. Pinkin Lovo?
I was supposed to mention the name.
Miss Pinkin Lovo. Okay, we're going to move to the next. If there is a representative for Pinky, can come and receive the award. Okay, and then the next one is community service. And Pinky Love was nominated by Innocent Bonambi, so that for transparency's purposes. And Ms. Dujwa nominated the winner for community service, Tulufelo Sinwana. Do we have Tulufelo Sinwana? Tulufelo? Okay, we are going to move. Is Ms. Dujwa here, by the way? The nominators, are they even here? Okay, we're moving on for transformative leadership. This individual was nominated by Badumisile Hlongwane, and the winner is Prof. Wendy Isaacs Martin. Congratulations. Can you come over here? Then the next category, the individual was nominated by Buikuto Mfusi, and the awardee is Dr. Matlohonolo Tobane. And the category is enhancing others' health and well-being. The next category that we have is significant achievement. The person who has nominated the awardee is Professor Lindy Wezungu, and the awardee, the winner, is Professor Noktula Mazibuko. Okay. The next category is courage in diversity. This individual has been nominated by Ubakeng Mutsamai, and the winner is Lulama Kibaitse. Okay. Later on, we also give them the awardees. Is there a person? Okay. Then we are left with the last and the main important award, the Feroza Adam Award. This is, the category is Advocacy and Promotion of Women's Rights. Regardless, we have to fight it through as Musadi. And the nominator is Mrs. Julia Masilela, and the person who received this award is Professor Lindiwe Zungu. Congratulations. Congratulations. Prof, our Vice Chancellor has just indicated this is excellence. How proud can we be? Thank you so much. Can we just applaud them, Ulilate? Well done, ladies, well done. They are moving in the category of winners. Thank you, ladies. Well done to Unisa women. Ladies, it's so simple to nominate a friend. Next year, you can decide on the table. As you are seated, decide on the table. Next year, it's you. Just like that. Yeah, because now some were nominated, they're not even aware. They're not here. So let's talk amongst ourselves. I'm giving you 2 minutes. Talk. Next year, it's you. We support you. We give you evidence.
And then that year it's you, just like that. Okay, thank you. Without any waste of time, we are happy we have the winners. And we really appreciate the role that Dr. Sheila and Dr. Tabani. Thank you so much for acknowledging these women and work of excellence. Mama Mokoka, thank you for giving them your warm hand, and they were also, they managed to touch the hand of a principal. And you can only touch the hand of a principal when you get an award. I touched this hand in 2014 when I got an award for community service. I said, award. Thank you so much. Now, without any waste of time, this is a moment when we are going to hear the words of appreciation, a congratulatory message from the principal. And let's applaud him as he's ascending the podium.
Program Director, Professor Makhanya, thank you so much. It's always exciting, being part and parcel of these proceedings. But let me just greet our keynote speaker, Ms. Refilwe Machete. We are back home. You may return as and when you are ready to do so. That's actually what happens with your home. People don't depart from home and don't return. Dr. Sheila Kumalo, Chairperson of Unisa Women's Forum, our colleagues from executive management who may have already left, but I also want to greet in particular Mrs. Nosisa Mukoka, who is the chairperson of the Human Resources Committee of Council. Thank you so much for being here. Professor Sindile Ngubane Mkiwa, Deputy Chairperson of the Unisa Women's Forum, Dr. Sili Tabanet, Secretary of the Unisa Women's Forum, members of the Women's Forum, members of SAWID, Women's Forum nominees. I had hoped that Ms. Sophie Mabaso will be here, who is a sign language practitioner, but clearly she's not around. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I know that it is the afternoon, and I'm sure we still all have the energy. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Oh, the energy seems to have disappeared somewhere, dissipated in the air. No, let me just greet all of you and thank you, Mrs. Machete, for inspiring address that you've shared with us here this afternoon. I must tell you that I've learned a lot. Rwanda is an amazing country, and you reminded me of something that we tend not to recognize, that is to learn from our own. We think that we can learn from somewhere else, yet we need to learn just from our own backyards. So it was good for you to have had this opportunity with us today. In the midst, colleagues, of what is turning out to be another dismal year for women's rights in our country, this celebration has provided a brief respite, reminding us of the huge capacity for transformation and progress that resides in our Unisa women and, of course, our South African women. And so it is my genuine pleasure to be able to congratulate all our women nominees and awardees for 2018 on their achievements and successes. Last month, on the 23rd of July, to be precise, I came across the following headline in News 24 article on the release of Stats South Africa Mid-Year Population Estimate Report. South Africa is young and female. I'm sure you must have seen it. The report went on to share that, quote, there are 57.7 million people in South Africa, up from 56.5 million people in 2017, and more than half of the population, 51%, is female. Coupled with this, the report states that women live on average 6 years longer than men, with a life expectancy of 67.3 years compared to 61.1 years for males, unquote. But on an interesting note, our fertility rate continued to decline, and these have never been high to begin with, down from 2.68 children per woman in 2009 to 2.40 in 2018. So what does this mean for us, and why am I sharing this with yourselves as Unisa women, and what does it mean for our country? Well, for one thing, each time you enter a room, each time you sit in a meeting, each time you sit in a boardroom, each time you sit in a selection committee, each time you cast your vote in any election, look about and you ask, where are the women? I think it's fairly close to what Ms. Machete shared with us, that we say everything, but we don't really tend to venture on some of these subjects which are critical for our own lives. So in terms of our population demographics, and by the way, equity ratios, there should be an even split between male and female. But that is not the case. And the question that really should linger on in our minds is, why is it the case? So what are you going to do about it? When it comes to change, I know of very few instances where people are willing to hand over or are willing to share power, even where there is legislation in place to facilitate such a transformation. In our case, we do have legislation, but it is gathering dust. And those who are tasked to do the work are choosing the opposite. In most cases, transformation has to be driven, and in this instance, I would like to suggest that it is women who will have to bring about change that you'd like to see. I've shared this with the Women's Forum on several platforms. Having 51% of representation does not mean 51% in the lower level jobs. It means 51% across the board. That means that as Women's Forum, that we'll have to start looking at the world and our university through new and different lenses, through visionary and strategic lenses, which acknowledge the very fact that there are women in this room of a similar age cohort across the country who are going to be increasingly responsible, not only for leading at this university and this country, but also growing and nurturing success, as well as those succeeding generations of women into positions of leadership and power. And I refer here to specifically yourselves as you are seated here, but also the students that we have a responsibility for. It is women such as yourselves, this generation, who must ensure that the status quo is broken decisively and that the road is cleared and paved for those who must follow. But at the same time, I doubt that as a country we have ever been under greater onslaught from South African men. I think if you look around and you read anything, that is actually what is the most scary of our experiences. So what does this mean? It means that all of us need to prevail and rise above these dark times, as you've done before, and harnessing your collective and singular determination. You need to chart your own destiny, with or without those men who seem to be hell-bent on the destruction of their own wives, destruction of their own daughters, their own sisters, but also their own mothers and grandmothers. I say that they are just a scourge in our population. And what do you do with them? Maybe we need to eliminate them one by one, but we don't need them in our society if we hope to have a future. Women have a collective power and potential for the transformation, growth, and development of our own countries, but also for our continent. We've had a very interesting story of Rwanda, which comes from a very painful past. I mean, if we had observed what had happened in that country from the bodies that they had kept purposely to remind those who were responsible for the elimination of that in excess of 1 million people that you will have been scared right to your bone. But they did that deliberately because it was meant to conscientize the Rwandans that that should never happen again. So as women, we have to accept that all too often we have to unpack the potential that we have as women in society. We have to also focus on the challenges to the extent that they can sometimes overshadow the achievements of women who are leading successful and fulfilled lives. She is doing it. She's right here. You are doing it. You are also right here. Many women are very successful, I must add. But many women are finding themselves under the shadow of this dark cloud and believe that they cannot do it. And obviously, there is no possibility of even emerging from this dark space that we find ourselves in. So women at our university has done us proud, and women in this country have done similarly so. Because as we know, it would not have been, had it not been for women such as Albertina Sisulu, Sophie de Bruyn, Helen Joseph, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, you name them all. They were brave, but it was not only just them who started doing so. Look at history, and you'll be surprised to discover the role that they played in shaping the leadership that these countries have had. So the little that is said about them is what makes us to believe that maybe they never existed. I'm sure you'll be keen to read the story of the mother of our own late President Nelson Mandela, and it will shock you to discover how powerful she was and how she influenced him to be who he became later on in life. So the word to the wise ladies who are gathered with us here, I've noticed an uncomfortable trend at our university. You know, you'll be surprised, Ms. Machete. We have bullies among us, and it's a painful experience. But we have to acknowledge that, because if we don't, we'll be lying to ourselves, and we can't live a lie. This is an embarrassing truth that over the last few years I've been receiving a growing number of complaints from staff members, both male and female, about female bullying, currently which is even higher than that which they are receiving from males. So this is something that needs to be nipped in the bud. It's an unfortunate reality that needs to be addressed, because these are kinds of behaviors and power plays that are damaging. And I can tell you they are obliterating even the cause for the transformation agenda of women's empowerment and development. And this is what needs to be addressed by ourselves as a university, but primarily as a country, because my sense is that we are inheriting this disease. We are inheriting a disease that needs to be dealt a serious blow by an institution of our learning, because as a university we can't be part and parcel of those who should be counted as being bullies and the distractors of the very core of our nation, because women are the core of any nation. So they are the core also of our university. So the simple truth that we must acknowledge is that bullies will never earn the kind of respect that is necessary for effective and enduring leadership. And it really has no place in this university. This is something that we all need to work on. But on a positive note, this is definitely not something that one associates with our nominees and our Ds today, because I can tell you, if that was the case, they would not have been nominated. Remember, nominators are very conscious people. It is their consciousness levels that have made them to see it fit that they must nominate their own. It is actually one of the most frustrating experiences to discover that when we are asked to nominate women who are doing some good work, we struggle to do so. Yet they are there. They are just around us, all that we need to do is just to look left and look right, look in front and look at the back. All those women are successful and they are doing wonderful work. And we need to nominate them. Let's not struggle with nominations. So our nominees and awardees this year are speaking to the flourishing of the many initiatives that we have as a university to advance women, and black women in particular, in leadership and in their careers, to the maturing of Unisa women in the more active expression of their rights, but also their abilities, but also to the ownership of women to claim their space in the university. So as our awardees today, let me tell you, you are fulfilling your daily responsibilities, that in doing that, you've grown as achievers, you've done so as leaders, but you also have done so as servants of our own people. You've demonstrated in this instant by the dint of your own nominations that your own peers acknowledge you as Unisa leaders and colleagues in the truest sense of the word. You are serving others, you are honoring your responsibility to be the best that you can be. You feel secured. I mean, that's what the program director mentioned, that it starts with you. You feel secured and confident about who you are. That is why you have the comfort to nominate others. Because if you don't, that's where the problem actually starts. So that's what we need to address. So in the words of the program director, those who have left home, please go back home. We need you. We need you until such time that the key has been offered to you in the direct sense of the word on broad daylight to say you are now free. But colleagues, on a serious note, let me tell you that you have every right to be proud and to celebrate this moment of us acknowledging the work that you've done. Thank you so much. Just enjoy it.
Thank you so much. Ladies, we are really very happy to hear congratulatory message from the principal, and the winners. Just know that that certificate, it has now been acknowledged by the principal. No one will take it away from you. No one will take it away. You deserve it. You deserve it. Thank you so much. I want us to sing as Professor Mukiwa is coming to ascend the podium to give us vote of thanks. But now this is a self-made song about UWF, and because most of you, you know how to dance, you're going to dance for it. I normally see people doing it 1, 2, 3, and then they do it the other way. Eti mina ngihamba nawe UWF, UWF, mina ngihamba nawe, UWF, awu nihamba nihlezi phansi, hamba nawe, UWF, hamba nawe, hamba
move out, but she's moving in. Can I just give, they say, holla to the MC. Yeah. She's quite cool. She's cool. Honored guests, Sir Vice Principal, we are honored, always honored to have you. Our VP Research, she has left, Professor Miwa. We are always honored to have our leaders around. We actually wanted to have all the female VPs here so that we could just look at them and say, wow, we are getting somewhere. But obviously they are very busy, but we are always honored to know that we are recognized as leadership. Ms. Nosisa Mokoka, you had asked that you want to be with us. So when you are here and you are having fun, then we know you are part of us. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, and then our funky keynote speaker. I did something very naughty. I was not born in 61, I was born in the 70s towards the end. And I did something that is very naughty. I went to her, I said, please don't bore us, eh? You can only trust me to do that. And she was like, no, don't worry. And I must tell you that it's an honor to have an ex-academic who's now in the corporate sector and recognizes the importance of research. So I must tell you that I think in your next trip you will have academics with you. Before you know, when you leave, we want to have your contacts so that we can conceptualize a research project, we get it registered and ethically cleared, then we can come with you properly. And thank you for giving us the opportunity. If you allow me before you eat, I just want to take a few things. The importance of borrowing from others. As South Africa, we are a healing nation. And something that we do not have is confidence. Believe me, a guy from Mozambique or Zimbabwe or Malawi who is a cobbler has more confidence than me. So it's important that we go out and learn how to accept our blackness and ourselves and know that we have so much to give. So I thank you for giving us that message. The power of understanding oneself and those that you are supposed to serve. Thank you for that. And the power of exposing one to other cultures, because we always say, nakimvenda. But you have so much to learn from the Afrikaner. What are they eating to make sure that they remain healthy? What are they doing this and that? So it's important that we go there. And Prof Makhanya, at the end, I loved it when you said we must stop bullying. Because, I'm sorry, we keep bullying each other. But while I'm just thanking you for saying that message, I want to recognize these giants that we are standing on the shoulders of. Professor Lipalale, Professor Makwe, Dr. Madiope, Professor Makhano. These are our ex-co. Professor Diadre. They are giving us selflessly. If there is anything to be done, you have allowed us to stand in your shoulders. And I say now, as you sit here as a woman, and I thank you for being here, allow others to stand on your shoulders. It humbles you. There's nothing that feels good than somebody telling you, I'm where I am because of you. And that is through the way we talk. I've heard somebody saying, hey, May, can you give me this? Next time say Prof. And I said, sorry, this lady doesn't know you as a professor. She sees you as a fellow woman. Don't ever do that again. So next time you want to be called a professor, please enforce that in the boardroom. But when you are in the corridors, you are a woman like all of us. So may I thank Ms. Nell and your team, the corporate communication for organizing this wonderful function. I thank the UWF EXCO members, the program director, the council member, our principal for being here, and our guest speaker, and your driver. I mean, that's cool. I've always wanted to have a driver, so, yeah, ne? And yeah, the caterers, Unisa Radio, Nonsigelelo, you contacted me and said you wanted to do something. Please do it and do it big. Then, of course, our members, the UWF, please promote us. We are here for you. And there is no other way that we are going to stop bullying and promote excellence amongst women unless if we sit here and talk to each other and just admire each other. Okay, so thank you very much for being here. And we are Africans, so at the end of everything we eat. Please share the lunch with us. Thank you very much.
Basadi, Bafazi, Africans, Froens. Thank you so much for this wonderful day. And for now, can I just quote one thing? And then this will be our provision until we meet in our closing function. Other women are not my competition. I stand with them, not against them. When one woman falls, I must pick her up. And then I is the first letter of illness. When a person keeps on saying, I is the first letter of illness. And then we is the two letters that start the word wellness. Hello, UWF, hello.